Bang bang! What's up, Cagesiders? Little shout out to Mick Foley there. It's your boy Sean coming at you like a house of fire on Cagesideseats.com, the best damn pro wrestling community on the interwebs. And hey, what's happening? What's going on? This is the fourth or fifth time I'm recording this. I'm a little cranky because did about 16 minutes last night and the audio was jacked. And then Keith broke a story that actually affects what I'm going to talk about, and so that sucks. And I feel like my hair looked better last night. I'm a vain motherfucker, so that's bothering me a little bit. And my cats are in kind of a mood, so I put the odds that one of them will like bat the webcam off of the table that it's sitting on at about 3 to 1 before this is over. And I'm just gonna keep recording. You can just look at my DC Comics pajama bottoms that I'm wearing instead of my Sami Zayn shirt for the duration if that happens. Anyway, what's going on? So what I wanted to talk about the buzz that got this thing working, such as it does this week, was Daniel Bryan's injury and injuries in wrestling in general, and just what I perceive as a different reaction to those injuries in our little wrestling community, and I include that fans, WWE, the wrestlers, the retired wrestlers, um, I'm talking more than just IWC or just behind the scenes. I'm talking about the whole big picture here. Um, so a difference in how that group reacts to these kind of injuries, and also I think um, a case where pro wrestling and WWE, while admittedly having a long way to go in terms of dealing with these things, is actually might be a little bit ahead of the curve in some ways, and that's something that I think maybe they should tout a little bit more. So yeah, so the big news in the rapidly escalating story that went from, hey, why wasn't Daniel Bryan on Raw, to Meltzer and company saying that's because he's hurting, and the assumption being that that was related to his neck and his arm weakness, the nerve weakness issues, to where he's taken off the tour, to now where it's maybe that's a concussion that was the cause of that more than anything else. I don't know if the concussion news negates the neck and arm issues or what. That's part of the fun of this wrestling journalism game, is that it's all hearsay, and I believe that those guys source their things, but I don't know where their sources heard things, and yada yada yada. So there's all that mixed into that a little bit. I mean, we can go back to when Pedro Aguayo Jr. passed away a few weeks ago, and we can go back to Corey Graves' retirement, and the also news this week that Ricky Steamboat broke that his son looks like is retiring from wrestling because of some back injuries. So all those things. I mean, I look at that. One thing is that I think the fan reaction to that is different than it would have been a few years ago. It's different than even somewhere where, like in the National Football League, there's a lot of fan awareness of concussions and the damages that playing the game cause. But that doesn't seem to have translated to me into a real fan desire to like see the players take better care of themselves. And I say this as a big football fan. Some of these I talk about, my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, and you can see I've got a Steelers poster in the back of one of the places where I shoot these. Um, so I'm not judging. I mean, I am a little bit, but I'm judging myself as well. Because I mean, I can say from personal experience, I think when a football player on a team that I root for is injured, I'm concerned about that guy, but I'm also concerned about like the team winning and stuff like that. So uh, my reaction is not as 100% pure in terms of sit that guy down, take care of his health first, as I feel like it is for me with wrestling. And I think I see that in the community at large too, in a football versus a pro wrestling context. I think the reaction to pro wrestling injuries these days seems to be like not only you've got to sit down, but you're stupid if you don't. I think there's some element of that to like Daniel Bryan has actually been perhaps rightfully blamed for not reining in his style or the frequency of his work. Um, and or to the people who injured them, which I guess that happens across, I mean, you would blame another team if they were the reason that your, star safety was concussed and couldn't play or something in football or hockey. I mean, football's not the only example of a contact sport where these things happen, but so I think, I mean, that's different. That's, and some of that I think is the nature of pro wrestling that, while we are rooting for our guys and our gals, we are we're aware that it's scripted and it's predetermined outcomes, so we're sort of pulling for the whole enterprise. And but we also do, I mean, we form attachments to these performers, and we don't want to see them end up dead, like Perito, or we don't want to see even somebody that is out there, living his life, enjoying his kids, making a living, entertaining us still, and Mick Foley, who we know is, every day can be a struggle because of the damage that his body incurred while he was being a pro wrestler. So I think that's different. I think that's driving the WWE to have a different approach to it as well. Because like I said, I mean, you look at Corey Graves, Richie Steamboat, these are guys that I think, I know it's pure conjecture on my part, but I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years ago they wouldn't have wanted to and maybe they still do, but they would have wanted to work through these injuries and keep going and give this, this was their shot to be famous, beloved, entertain the masses, all that stuff. And that the company would have encouraged them to keep doing that. The fans would have encouraged them to keep doing that. Their trainers, the other wrestlers would have encouraged them to keep doing that. And now, I mean, at least in their cases, that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, we've got Corey Graves is getting Triple H, glad handing him, shaking his hand, saying, "We're proud of you, but it's time to hang him up. We're going to give you this other opportunity." You've got Richie Steamboat with his dad, a Hall of Famer, a legend, saying, "I'm disappointed, but not in any way doubting that it's the right call for his son to stop taking back bumps and stuff after a surgery to repair 4 discs." So that's a cultural change. I mean, that's different, and I think that's a little bit ahead of the curve from other sports or other sports / entertainments. If we want to get technical about it, because I know some real sports fans would get pissed off if I didn't. Not that I give a crap, but so I think that's different. I mean, and this is not to say that WWE doesn't have, like I said, a long way to go. I mean, we're not that far removed. It seems like a long time ago because media goes fast in the time that we live in. But Bill DeMott was just driven out partially on allegations that he was abusive to people who were injured and forced. And we've got the CM Punk allegations are still out there, and even this Bryan situation. There's some question about, well, if you knew he was concussed after he wrestled Sheamus a week ago, why was he still working at all? And so, I mean, this is not a defense of WWE. It's just an observation that I think things are going the right way. And I think, a lot of that is I think that we drive that. I think fans, much more so than we can with booking or anything like that, I think we can drive them to take better care of the company to take better care of the performers, and the performers to take better care of themselves. And that's different. Like I said, that's something that while we can get into, I know we don't like Roman Reigns, so we don't want to see him pushed or whatever, which I don't think that's a whole other topic. But it's not really us versus them, unless somebody's a legitimately bad dude, which maybe maybe Alex Riley. I don't know. That dude is just under my skin right now, and maybe I'm getting worked. I don't know, but. For the most part, we don't really root against somebody the way that I would as a football fan root against, the Ravens or the Browns or the Bengals or the Cowboys or something. So, yeah, so that's different. I think, I mean, there's a bunch of different things in here too. I mean, I think when Bruno Sammartino came back into the fold, some people, myself included, kind of took him to task for saying that, the health issues, WWE was dealing with drug and health issues a lot better. And again, there's a long way to go, but they are dealing. I mean, compared to something like Bruno's day, where I mean, I'm sure he worked concussed, or I'm sure he'd seen guys that couldn't. I mean, just look at how Shawn Michaels performed during, before his break, towards the tail end of his back issues there. I mean, that was the culture, and it's not anymore. So to a guy like that, there's definitely progress going on, and and is some of it PR? I mean, I myself. I think I wrote something when Corey Graves retired that, a lot of that was PR. Um, and it was. I mean, I stand by that. I think that's. I think maybe I'm a little jaded, but I think I'm also, like I said, I'm a 21st century consumer of this stuff, so I'm not aware of those things. And the same stuff came up around the Connor McCallick stuff and Justin Roberts' blog about that. And yes, WWE took advantage of that to garner some goodwill and get some good publicity, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't the right thing to do in the first place. So, and that's the same. The same thing is true with the Corey Graves situation. Did they, trot him out there to make sure everybody saw that they were taking care of somebody with concussion issues right after Punk said they didn't take care of him when he had concussion issues? Yes. Does that mean that it's not a good thing that they're now taking better care of some guys with concussion issues? Right. I mean, that's still the positive is still the positive, regardless of if there's some ulterior motives. So, all that stuff is in there. And I think, like I said, it's slow progress, but would Perito's, hairline fractures in his spine have been diagnosed earlier so that he wasn't out there taking that bump that night if he had been with WWE or, in the culture that's changing to where, that kind of stuff, it's more accepted to take some days off for that kind of stuff. Um, I don't know. We'll never know, but it's certainly possible. So I think that's, like I said, so that's something I think fans need to get away from. The two reactions that aren't that great, I think, is this sort of the backlash against whoever they faced. I mean, we all did it with Jack Swagger, and it's happening with Sheamus now too. We don't know. I mean, we can. I mean, there's certain bumps or there's certain spots where we can look at it and say that shouldn't have happened. But it does take two to tango, and there's guys out there. I mean, somebody's involved in the road agent and putting these matches together. I don't think we should, turn a work into a shoot, so to speak, and completely just go after a guy because they were the person in the ring with somebody when they allegedly got hurt. Again, we don't know the particulars. We're not professional wrestlers, so I don't know. I think that's a little bit dangerous. I think also there was a little bit when the Bryan news started to come out. Certain people were like, "You wanted him to face Brock Lesnar, and he could have died if he did that." I mean, I was going off of the information I had at the time. I was beating the Lesnar versus Bryan drum loudly, and I still would love to see that match if Bryan gets a clear bill of health. I think they could have an amazing big man, small man, strong style match that like nobody else could probably put together. So I still want that, but that doesn't make me. If you told me that there was a chance Daniel Bryan might be paralyzed if he did it for real, like the doctor said that, then I wouldn't have advocated for it. So, as with everything else, we need to be careful to not turn on each other. So that when we're talking about these issues, and I think we should be careful to not villainize other wrestlers. But I do think that this is an area where fans, and especially fans like Cageside Seats, a growing, sort of progressive in a good way, not in sort of not in a political. I don't want to get into that way. I mean, that's why I fucks with you people because I feel like we're about having informed discussion and debate about pro wrestling stuff. But in general, our hearts are in the right place, and I think we can continue to have an influence there, and it's better that's spent there than in cancel WWE Network because the Roman Reigns push was telegraphed, which maybe it was, and I will continue to advocate for better storytelling and more logical, outcomes to conflicts and actually having conflicts instead of just, all that stuff, all that storytelling stuff, which is important, and we should demand that as consumers of an entertainment product, but the more important thing is to continue to push WWE and wrestling in general to, not be a frickin' blood sport. And I've seen some signs of progress in that this week, so that's encouraging to me. So, if you're still somebody who, thinks that you guys should work through when they can't feel anything in their arms, I hope that this industry is moving away from entertaining you. I'm sorry to say. I think WWE can take better care of their employees and change some of the demographics of their audience and maybe get some more advertising revenue by continuing to be forward looking in this way. So, yeah. So if you're somebody who still wishes that, Dolph Ziggler worked with a concussion, I hope you are disappointed and I hope that you will have to deal with it.